At 63, I had spent most of my life listening to machines. A press tells you when the rollers are too dry. A cutter warns you before the blade drifts. Even a folding machine has a certain rattle when a bearing is beginning to fail. People make noises too. My son Caleb had been speaking to me for months in the careful voice people use when they want to sound reasonable while moving you toward a decision you never made. That morning he placed a red safety folder on my desk and said Uncle Daniel can't work the floor anymore. He nearly took a man's hand off. Across the glass wall of my office, my younger brother stood at the old Heidelberg press, aligning a stack of cream wedding invitations with his left hand. His right hand had never fully recovered from the stroke, but his eyes were still better than mine. I opened the folder. There were 3 incident reports. 2 carried Daniel's initials. 1 carried mine. I had never seen any of them. Then the mail clerk brought in a warranty registration for a new hydraulic paper cutter purchased under Mercer Printing's account. The delivery address was North Line Fulfillment Warehouse 4B. I had never heard of North Line Fulfillment. Caleb had. My name is Thomas Mercer. Most people call me Tom. My father opened Mercer letterpress and packaging in 1976 with 1 hand-fed press, 2 folding tables, and a belief that a promise printed on paper ought to mean something. For years, I believed the same thing about family. Before I tell you how my son tried to remove my brother, take our customers and sell the building underneath all of us, tell me this: would you confront him the moment you saw the false reports? Or would you wait until you knew who else might be hurt? The shop sat in an old brick building on the east side of Columbus, half a mile from the rail yard. The neighborhood had changed around us, but the press room still smelled like ink paper dust and warm metal. Daniel was 5 years younger than me. He could sort metal type by touch, remember every customer's family history, and catch errors 3 adults had missed. My father called him Hawk because nothing escaped him. I became president after our father died. Daniel became the person everyone trusted. That balance lasted almost 30 years. Then Daniel suffered a stroke in the back hallway while carrying envelope samples. He survived, but the right side of his body remained weak, and his words sometimes arrived slowly. The first day he returned, all 18 employees applauded. Daniel cried. So did I. I made a mistake after that. I treated gratitude like a management plan. I wanted him back because he was my brother, and because the shop felt wrong without him. I reduced his hours, removed heavy lifting, and assigned color checks, ticket review, and final inspection. But I never created a formal return-to-work plan or clearly defined his limits. I assumed goodwill would cover the gaps. Caleb saw those gaps before I did. Caleb was 36, my only child and our operations director. After his mother Ann died, we handled grief by working. He modernized our systems, won packaging accounts, and made himself essential. I thought I was preparing him to lead one day. Caleb believed I was postponing that day because I trusted Daniel more. The tension sharpened when a developer offered a fortune for our building. Caleb wanted to relocate. Daniel refused. He owned 30% of the company and part of the property, so the sale required his approval. Dad built here, Daniel said. People know the door. I was not against moving forever, but the building held 50 years of files, family photographs, wood type, and the upstairs office where Anne once kept our books. I told Caleb we would revisit the offer after our 50th anniversary celebration. That was when Caleb began documenting Daniel's limitations. At first, the concerns sounded responsible, a proof on the wrong cart, a color outside tolerance, a moment too close to a machine. Each was possible. Then the tone changed. At staff meetings, Caleb started saying, "For everyone's safety, we need to be honest about what Daniel can still handle." He emphasized still. When customers asked for Daniel, Caleb said he was semi-retired for health reasons. Daniel heard him say it once. Afterward, he came into my office and placed both hands on my desk. "Not retired," he said. "I know. Tell him. I will. I meant it." Then a paper delivery arrived late. The roof began leaking above finishing, and a customer rejected 12,000 folded menus because someone had used the wrong score direction. I delayed the conversation. That was another mistake. A family betrayal rarely begins with one dramatic lie. It grows in the spaces where honest conversations should have happened. The morning Caleb brought me the red folder, our 50th anniversary dinner was 3 days away. We had invited employees, retired pressmen, longtime customers, vendors, and a representative from the local business association. Caleb had arranged the event in our upstairs bindery, which had been cleared and decorated with framed advertisements we had printed through the decades. He had also asked me to announce him as the company's next president. I had not agreed. The folder contained 3 alleged safety incidents from the previous 6 weeks. The first stated that Daniel had activated a cutter while Luis's hand was inside the guarded area. The second said Daniel had bypassed a sensor on the folding machine. The third said he had approved a rush job after the press operator reported a damaged roller. At the bottom of each form was a signature block. 2 held Daniel's shaky initials. The third held a version of my signature with a long, flat T I had not used since my 20s. "Why am I seeing these now?" I asked. Caleb sat across from me. "I wanted to verify the pattern before I worried you." "Who investigated?" "I did." "Who witnessed the cutter incident?" "Luis." "Did Luis write a statement?" "He told me verbally." "Why are Daniel's initials on reports he says he has never seen?" Caleb leaned back. "Has he said that?" "I haven't asked him yet." "Then you don't know." I looked through the glass at Daniel. He lifted a sheet from the press, held it under the light, and frowned. Then he pointed at the blue registration mark in the corner and called Luis over. Daniel had been talking about blue labels for weeks. Blue wrong, he had told me twice. I assumed he meant a color-matching problem. The mail clerk knocked and handed me the warranty card. The machine listed was a Braxton H92 hydraulic cutter, purchased 6 weeks earlier for $48,000. Buyer Mercer letterpress and packaging. Authorized purchaser Thomas Mercer. Delivery location North Line Fulfillment Warehouse 4B Grove City, Ohio. Caleb's eyes moved toward the card, only for a moment, but I saw it. "What is North Line?" I asked. His face did not change. Probably one of the vendor's logistics partners. "Why is a machine purchased under our account being delivered there?" "I'd have to check." "Did you order it?" "No." The answer came too quickly. I turned the card over. A toll-free customer service number was printed beneath the manufacturer's logo. Caleb stood. "I need to get back to the floor. We can deal with the warranty issue later. Right now, I need your approval to suspend Daniel until after an independent medical evaluation." "An independent safety evaluation," I said. "What? You wrote safety reports." "We evaluate the work and the equipment first." "Dad, this is not the time to be defensive. He is my brother. I am allowed to be careful." "You are allowed to be responsible." He said it like a correction. Then he tapped the red folder. "If you wait and someone gets hurt, that will be on you." He left the office. I sat alone for less than a minute. Then I made my first consequential decision. I did not confront Daniel in front of the staff. I did not suspend him based on reports I could not verify. I shut down the cutter and folding line for a documented safety check, reassigned Daniel to the proofing room for the day, and called every employee into the break room. "A concern has been raised about equipment procedures," I said. "Until the review is complete, no one discusses blame on the floor. Bring any facts directly to me in writing." Caleb stood near the coffee machine with his arms crossed. "You're halting production over paperwork." "I'm halting 2 machines until we know what happened. We have deadlines. We also have fingers." The room stayed quiet. I asked Luis to remain after the others returned to work. Luis had been with us for 17 years. He was not a man who exaggerated. I placed the cutter report in front of him. Did Daniel activate the cutter while your hand was inside the guarded area? Luis read the report twice. No. Did anything happen near the cutter? A stack shifted. I reached around the side before the blade cycle. Daniel hit the red stop button and yelled at me. Did he nearly injure you? He stopped me from doing something stupid. Did you tell Caleb that? I told him there was a near miss and that Daniel reacted fast. Luis pointed to the line claiming Daniel had initiated the cycle. I never said this. Did you sign a statement? No. Did anyone ask you to? Caleb said he would handle the report. The apparent problem had been a safety event. The first layer of truth was that the event had been reversed. Daniel had not caused the danger. He had prevented it. I asked Luis to write exactly what he remembered in his own words and date it. Then I brought Daniel into my office. I placed the two reports with his initials in front of him. He read slowly. His face reddened. No. Are those your initials? He leaned closer. Look. He picked up my pen with his left hand and wrote DM on a blank sheet. Daniel's M always ended with a short upward stroke. The initials on the reports ended flat. Not me, he said. Did Caleb ever ask you to sign safety forms? He gave clipboard. Said delivery checks. I signed one. When? Daniel closed his eyes, searching for the words. Night. Blue boxes. What blue boxes? He pointed toward the warehouse. Jobs, blue labels, not ours. I remembered the stacks I had seen near the loading dock during the previous month. Plain cartons with blue routing labels instead of our usual yellow job labels. Caleb had said they belonged to a customer using us for temporary storage. Where did they go? I asked. Daniel made a turning motion with his hand. Night truck, Caleb. Did you see the address? He tapped the warranty card. North Line. The second layer was beginning to form. I asked Daniel to tell me everything he remembered without rushing. He described seeing Caleb and two temporary workers run short jobs after closing. The cartons carried blue labels. The job tickets were not in our normal rack. Once Daniel found a stack of cosmetic packaging with a customer name he recognized from our old accounts. When he asked Caleb about it, Caleb said the work was overflow for a partner company. Daniel had tried to tell me. Blue wrong, he said again. I had heard the words. I had not understood the warning. I called the equipment manufacturer. The representative confirmed that the cutter had been financed through a commercial credit line opened in Mercer Printing's name. The order had been submitted electronically by our authorized purchasing user. There were only two authorized users, me and Caleb. The representative could not give me the full application over the phone, but she verified the email address used. It belonged to Caleb. Did the application include my personal guarantee? I asked. Yes. Was it signed electronically? Yes. Please flag the account as disputed and send the documentation to the company address, already on file, not the delivery address. She hesitated. Mr. Mercer, payments are current. From which account? I can't disclose banking information until identity verification is complete. Then complete it. I spent the next hour providing documents, answering security questions, and resisting the urge to call Caleb into the office and demand an explanation. That confrontation would have felt good for 5 minutes. It might also have warned him to erase everything I had not yet found. My second consequential decision was to preserve records before removing access. I called Marlene Shaw, who had handled our books for 28 years, and asked her to pull every payment connected to Northline without using the shared office system. Then I requested after-hours alarm records and exported the press controller logs. Modern presses remember every run operator code, impressions, shutdowns, and job references. The records showed 37 late-night production sessions under Caleb's code. The jobs carried references beginning with NL, and the loading dock opened on the same nights. This was not overflow accidentally mixed into our schedule. It was a second operation running inside hours. Marlene called back shortly after lunch. Her voice sounded strained. Tom Northline. Fulfillment is owned by Caleb. How do you know? The tax identification number on one reimbursement form matches a company registration in his name. I checked the state database. Who else is listed? His wife Rachel is the statutory contact. I closed my eyes. Rachel was a marketing consultant. She had helped design the anniversary invitations. How much money has moved? Directly about $91,000. But that is not the full exposure. What else? Several customers who used to order from Mercer disappeared from our active accounts. Their paper and plate costs continued showing up here for a while. I assumed Caleb was closing old jobs. He was producing their work here and billing them through Northline. That is what it looks like. Marlene hesitated. There is also a loan application for the cutter number. A commercial line secured by projected proceeds from a building sale. My hand tightened around the phone. We have not sold the building. The application includes a letter stating that both owners approved the developer's offer and expected closing within 90 days. Daniel never approved it. Did you? No. The third layer was worse than hidden production. Caleb had built a second company using our machines, our paper, our customers, and our credit. Then he had represented the building sale as certain even though Daniel's ownership prevented it. Removing Daniel was not only about safety, it was about eliminating the one person whose refusal could collapse Caleb's financing. I asked Marlene to make read-only copies of every relevant record and store them off the company network. I called Patricia Green, a retired manufacturing safety consultant who had inspected our shop before. I asked for an independent assessment of the machines, the reports, and Daniel's assigned duties. She arrived the next morning with an ergonomics specialist and began interviewing people separately. Caleb objected, saying the review would disrupt production. Then you should welcome a factual answer, I told him. Production has already been disrupted. He glanced toward Daniel, who was working in the proofing room. You're letting family loyalty override safety. No, I said. I'm letting evidence arrive before punishment. Patricia separated everyone who had been named in the reports. She inspected machine guards, emergency stops, lockout procedures, training records, and camera placement. She interviewed Luis, Danielle, Caleb, and the folding operator. She also asked for the original electronic files of the 3 reports. Caleb said they had been created in the shop's shared safety folder. Patricia found something he had overlooked. The document properties showed all 3 reports had been created on the same night, within 17 minutes of one another, even though the alleged incidents occurred over 6 weeks. The author account was Caleb's. The report claiming Daniel bypassed the folding machine sensor included a serial number. That serial number belonged to our old folder, which had been removed from service 8 months earlier. The newer machine used a different sensor design. Caleb had copied language from an older maintenance report. His strongest defense remained that Daniel truly presented a risk. Patricia did not ignore that possibility. She observed Daniel at every assigned task. She tested whether he could reach emergency stops, read labels, inspect registration, and communicate a hazard quickly enough for others to understand. Daniel struggled when asked to explain a complex procedure verbally. But when Patricia gave him a laminated sequence card, he performed each step correctly. He also identified 2 loose guard fasteners that the rest of us had missed. Her preliminary conclusion was careful. Daniel should not operate the hydraulic cutter or clear jams. He should not work alone around moving equipment, but he could safely perform proofing color inspection, job ticket verification, and limited press checks with documented accommodations. In other words, he needed a proper plan, not removal. Caleb read the preliminary notes and said, "You are evaluating him on his best day. That is not how risk works." Patricia replied, "Risk is managed through defined duties, safeguards, and supervision. It is not managed through altered reports." Caleb's face went pale. "What altered reports? You'll receive my written findings." He left the room before she finished speaking. That afternoon, I made my 3rd consequential decision. I removed Caleb's purchasing authority remote network access and alarm code pending an internal investigation. I did not fire him yet. I wanted the evidence complete, and I wanted to know whether any customer contracts or employee wages were at immediate risk. I asked him to surrender his company laptop and keys. He refused. You cannot be serious. I am. Over a warranty card. Over a company you own that has been using our equipment. His expression changed. Not shock. Calculation. Northline is an overflow partner. Owned by you. I built it to protect Mercer from low-margin jobs. Using Mercer's credit line, I intended to reimburse everything. Using proceeds from a building sale Daniel never approved. He stared at me. Marlene's discovery had not reached him yet. That told me our evidence remained secure. Caleb lowered his voice. You don't understand the position you put me in. Then explain it. For 10 years, I modernized this place while you and Uncle Daniel acted like printing church bulletins was a business strategy. I brought in packaging accounts. I built the online system. I negotiated paper prices. Every time I asked for authority, you said after the next quarter, after the roof, after the anniversary. So you took it. I created a company that could survive after Mercer collapses. With Mercer's customers who were leaving anyway. With Mercer's machines, idle machines. With Daniel blamed for incidents he prevented. His eyes hardened. Daniel is not capable of protecting this company. This company owns his name and his work too. He owns 30% because Grandpa felt guilty. No. He owns 30% because he spent his life here. Caleb stepped closer to my desk. And what do I own? The question stopped me. He was not asking about shares. He was asking what his years had meant. I had promoted him, paid him well, guaranteed his first mortgage, and planned to make him president one day. But I had never clearly told him what future I saw for him. I had assumed he would understand, just as I had assumed Daniel's accommodations would somehow manage themselves. I had built a company on written instructions and run my family on unspoken expectations. You earned respect, I said. You earned responsibility. You did not earn the right to counterfeit consent. He laughed once. Counterfeit, you sound like Grandpa. My signature is on a loan I never approved. You would have approved it if you understood the opportunity. That sentence is why you are leaving today. His face tightened. The anniversary dinner is Saturday. Customers are coming. The developer is coming. You need me. The developer is coming. He realized his mistake. Then he tried to recover. He is a community partner. I invited him months ago. You planned to announce the sale. I plan to show people the future. The building is not for sale. It will be when Daniel is declared unable to participate. There it was. The motive spoken plainly. Caleb looked past me through the glass wall. Daniel was standing in the proofing room doorway. I did not know how much he had heard. Enough, apparently. Daniel walked in slowly. He set a sheet on my desk. It was the anniversary program proof. At the bottom beneath the dinner schedule was a line Caleb had added without my approval. Future of Mercer. Printing announcement. Caleb Mercer, President. Daniel pointed to the word President. Blue wrong, he said. The line was printed in blue. For weeks, he had been trying to tell me that the blue labeled jobs, the blue routing marks, and the blue anniversary announcement did not belong. Caleb looked at him. You should not even be in this meeting. Daniel's mouth tightened as he searched for the words. Then he said them. My company. Caleb turned to me. You are going to destroy everything because you feel guilty about his stroke. No, I said. I am going to stop you from using it. I called building security from the property management company next door. Caleb surrendered the laptop and keys before they arrived, but he made sure everyone on the floor saw him leave. He told the staff I had panicked. He told Rachel I was having some kind of breakdown. By 6 that evening, 3 employees had received messages from him claiming Mercer Printing might close after the anniversary. He remained active. He called 2 customers and warned them their upcoming jobs were at risk. He contacted the developer and said family resistance had created a delay, not a cancellation. He also sent me an email offering a settlement. If I approved the building sale and transferred operational control, he would dissolve. Northline assume the Cutter debt and protect Daniel from public embarrassment. I printed the email. Then I went home. I lived in the same modest ranch house where Caleb had grown up. Anne's handwriting was still on the labels inside the pantry. The kitchen table had a burn mark from a science project Caleb completed in 7th grade. I sat there until nearly midnight, asking myself how much of his anger I had created. The answer was not zero. I had praised him most when he solved problems and rarely when he simply showed up. I had postponed succession conversations because they forced me to imagine a shop without myself in it. I had assumed his competence meant he needed less reassurance than Daniel, but the truth that explained part of his resentment could not excuse the choices he made after it. Understanding is not surrender. The next morning I met with 4 people in the upstairs bindery where the anniversary dinner would be held. Marlene brought the financial records. Patricia brought her signed safety findings. Our bank's commercial fraud officer joined by video to explain that the disputed credit application and equipment financing were under review. Payments would not be accelerated while ownership and authorization were investigated, but no further borrowing could occur. The 4th person was Evelyn Ross, purchasing director for Brightleaf Cosmetics, one of the customers we had supposedly lost. Their packaging appeared in the late-night Northline runs. Evelyn looked through the copied job records and became angry in a quiet, efficient way. "We never ended our relationship with Mercer," she said. "Caleb told us Mercer was moving all short-run packaging to a new production division." "Northline?" I asked. "Yes." He said it was wholly owned by Mercer. "It is owned by Caleb and Rachel." Evelyn removed her glasses. "We paid Northline $140,000 over 8 months. Mercer paid for part of the paper and produced many of the jobs. Then we were misled too." She agreed to provide invoices and communications. 2 other customers confirmed similar stories that afternoon. Caleb had not merely taken work that was leaving. He had redirected loyal customers by representing his private company as our division. The evidence chain was complete. False safety reports created the need to remove Daniel. Removing Daniel cleared the obstacle to a building sale. The proposed sale supported a loan application. The loan and diverted customer revenue funded Northline. Northline used Mercer's labor machines, materials, and reputation. Each piece had looked ordinary by itself. Together they showed intent. I considered canceling the anniversary dinner. Marlene advised against it. "People are already coming," she said. "If you cancel now, Caleb controls the story." Patricia agreed. "You do not need to expose private details to everyone. But employees and customers deserve to know whether the company is operating." Daniel sat at the end of the bindery table listening. "What do you want?" I asked him. He answered more quickly than I expected. "Dinner. You still want the celebration? 50 years. Caleb may come." "Yes. He may bring the developer." Daniel looked at the framed photograph of our father hanging on the wall. "Then chairs." I smiled, despite everything. "Put out chairs." He nodded. My brother was not asking for revenge. He was asking us not to surrender our history because someone had tried to steal our future. So we kept the dinner. But we changed the program. The blue announcement disappeared. In its place, Daniel suggested a live demonstration using the small hand-fed press my father had purchased in 1976. We cleaned it, oiled the rollers, and moved it to the front of the room. Daniel selected a line of metal type from our archive. He would not tell me what it said. On Saturday evening, more than 100 people filled the bindery. Retired employees stood beside current apprentices. Customers studied old sample books. Luis showed his teenage daughter the press he had learned on. Rachel arrived alone and avoided my eyes. Caleb arrived 10 minutes later with the developer Evan Cole and a man I recognized as a commercial lender. He wore the navy suit Anne had bought him for his first trade conference. For one painful second, I saw the young man who had stood in my kitchen after her funeral and promised we would keep the shop going together. Then he noticed Patricia. He noticed Evelyn Ross from Brightleaf. He noticed Marlene beside a locked document case. Finally, he saw Daniel standing at the old press. That was the first step of the reckoning. The people he expected to be absent were waiting in the room. Caleb crossed the floor toward me. "What is this?" he asked. "Our anniversary. You invited customers involved in an internal dispute. They were already invited. You involved them in the dispute." Evan Cole approached with a leather folder. "Tom, I understand there have been some family concerns, but we can still keep tonight positive. The revised purchase terms are generous." "There are no revised terms," I said. Caleb looked around. "This is not the place. It became the place when you scheduled a future of the company announcement without owner approval." Guests were taking their seats. I had no intention of turning the dinner into a trial. Most people did not need every number, every forged form, or every family wound, but the employees needed to know whether their jobs were secure. The customers needed to know which company they had been dealing with. The developer needed to know the building was not available, and Caleb needed to discover that the authority he had borrowed from other people was gone. I stepped to the microphone. The room settled. 50 years ago, my father opened this shop with one press and enough cash to cover 2 weeks of payroll. I began. He told us a print job has 3 parts: the promise, the impression, and the proof. Daniel stood beside the old press, one hand resting on its frame. For the past several weeks, questions have been raised about safety ownership and the future of this company. Those questions have been reviewed by an independent safety consultant, our financial team, our lender, and the customers directly affected. Caleb remained standing near the aisle. I continued. Mercer Printing is not being sold. Daniel Mercer remains an owner and will continue working under a written accommodation and safety plan. No employee position is being eliminated because of his stroke. A few people began to clap. Daniel raised his hand. The room quieted again. I looked at Caleb. Northline Fulfillment is not a division of Mercer Printing. It has never been owned by this company. Any customer who was told otherwise will receive a direct accounting and production review. Evelyn Ross stood. Brightleaf will cooperate fully, she said. We expect others will too. Caleb's strongest excuse had been that he created Northline to save customers and protect jobs. That defense failed in front of the customers he had deceived. He stepped into the aisle. Dad, you are presenting incomplete information. Northline handled work Mercer could not efficiently produce. Every decision I made protected this company from your refusal to change. Patricia did not move from her seat. I did not need her to speak. I opened the red folder and removed the 3 safety reports. These reports were used to justify removing Daniel. The independent review found that 2 were technically impossible as written, and 1 reversed the actions of the person who prevented the accident. Luis stood near the back wall. I was the man at the cutter, he said. Daniel hit the stop. He protected me. A silence moved through the room. Caleb looked at him. You misunderstood the reporting language, no, Luis said. You changed what I told you. Caleb turned back to me. You are choosing emotion over the future. I placed the warranty registration on the podium. Then Marlene placed the disputed equipment contract beside it. The earlier clues gained their full meaning. The blue-labeled jobs, the late-night press runs, the false reports. The cutter delivered to a warehouse Caleb claimed not to know. I did not read private account numbers or loan details aloud. I said only what directly affected the people in the room. Company credit was used without owner approval. Customer work was redirected under false ownership claims. Mercer equipment and materials were used to produce invoices for another company. Those matters are now under formal financial and contractual review. The commercial lender beside Evan Cole closed his folder. Evan looked at Caleb. You told us both owners had approved the sale. They would have, Caleb said. Once the safety issue was resolved, Daniel walked away from the old press and stood beside me. His steps were uneven, but he did not hurry. Caleb looked at him. You are holding everyone hostage to nostalgia. Daniel took a breath. No sale. You don't understand the financial position. I understand my name. Caleb laughed bitterly. This company will die because you two refuse to admit what time has done to you. That was when I delivered the line I had not planned, but had earned. You spent months teaching everyone to doubt Daniel, I said. All you proved was that the wrong Mercer was being protected. Caleb's face emptied. The power he thought he controlled disappeared in stages. His purchasing authority was already revoked. His access to the building had ended. The lender would not advance funds on disputed authority. The developer had no approved sale. The customers knew Northline was separate, and the presidency he planned to announce did not exist. I looked at him across the room where my father had once stacked paper by hand. Your employment with Mercer Printing is terminated for cause effective today. You will receive the written notice and an opportunity to respond through counsel. You are not authorized to speak for this company, enter the facility, contact employees on its behalf, or use its customer records. Rachel covered her mouth. Caleb did not look at her. You are firing your own son in front of strangers. No, I said. I am correcting the record in front of the people you placed inside the lie. He stood there for several seconds. Then he turned toward the door. Before leaving, he looked at Daniel. You won. Daniel shook his head. No game. Caleb left. Nobody cheered. I was grateful for that. This was not entertainment to us. It was a family breaking in public because one of us had mistaken control for inheritance. After the door closed, Daniel returned to the old press. He placed a small sheet of cotton paper into the guides and pulled the lever with his left hand. The rollers turned. The press made the soft, familiar thump I had heard since childhood. He lifted the sheet and held it up. Printed in dark blue were 6 words. The proof belongs to the truth. That had been the line he set in metal type. The room stood and applauded. Not for me, not against Caleb, for Daniel, and for the shop. The aftermath took more than a year. The bank determined that my electronic signature had been used without valid authorization. The lender recovered the cutter customers, pursued credits, and Northline closed within 4 months. Mercer lost money, but we survived. Caleb wrote, after Rachel filed for divorce. He admitted Northline began as a legitimate idea, then became a trap of debt and entitlement. When Daniel blocked the building sale, Caleb treated the stroke as an opportunity. I answered that I had failed to define his future and had hidden difficult decisions behind delay. But remorse would be measured by what he repaired, not by how well he explained the damage. Daniel's written safety plan changed the shop. We added visual procedures, direct witness statements, and clear duties for everyone. He became our quality control lead. I still finished his sentences until one afternoon he said, "You steal words because quiet scares you." He was right. I had filled Anne's absence with work, Daniel's pauses with my answers, and Caleb's future with vague promises. We sold an underused press, refinanced the roof, and created a small outside advisory board so no family member could secretly control borrowing or related contracts. Marisol Vega, our production manager, became general manager. Ownership no longer meant unchecked authority. 9 months after the anniversary, Caleb asked Daniel and me to meet at a diner across town. He brought a repayment proposal, corrections sent to customers, and a written apology. Daniel pushed the letter back. "Say," Caleb looked at his hands. "I used your stroke because I needed people to believe you were the problem. I changed the reports and used your initials. I knew you understood the sale." "Why?" Daniel asked. "I was angry that Dad trusted your judgment while making me wait for authority. I hated myself for resenting you, so I turned it into a plan." Daniel read the apology slowly, then closed the folder. "Not ready," he said. "I understand," Caleb replied. Daniel shook his head. "You wait, then understand. That meeting did not restore our family. It created the possibility that restoration might one day begin." Caleb found work with a shipping company and started monthly repayments. We met occasionally without pretending consequences had expired. On the first anniversary of the reckoning, Daniel moved our original 1976 hand-fed press into the lobby. Beneath its brass plaque, he mounted the proof he had printed that night. The proof belongs to the truth. A young apprentice asked what it meant. Daniel took his time. A story is not true because someone prints it first, he said. I almost answered for him. I caught myself. I placed the Blue Anniversary program, the North Line warranty card, the safety report, and Daniel's proof in the company archive. Memory becomes dangerous when a family edits out the parts that make it uncomfortable. I am 65 now. I work 4 days a week. Marisol runs operations. Daniel still catches errors the younger staff miss. Caleb and I are not what we were, and we may never be. But he calls before holidays, asks Daniel questions directly, and no longer treats forgiveness like something he can earn on a schedule. Last month he visited the shop. Daniel was checking blue carton labels. What are you checking? Caleb asked. Registration. Half point left. Caleb looked through a magnifier until he saw the drift. There, he said. Daniel nodded. They did not hug or erase the past. They stood beside each other and looked at the same proof. My father used to say, pressure creates the impression, but release saves the paper. I understood the machine long before I understood the family. Justice was not destroying my son. It was refusing to let him print a lie over everyone else's life and learning at last when to release. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Share it with someone who values truth over control. And tell me in the comments whether family trust can ever be rebuilt after a betrayal like this.